Darьya Zvereva, and I'm from the Southern 10th grade. And the title of my research paper is Typical Addictions to Substances in Social and Scientific Context. I have examined the biochemical mechanism of addiction development as well as societal attitudes towards that phenomenon. The aim of my research is to identify the mechanism of addiction development as well as its consequences for the individual and the society at large. The tasks of the research paper are to investigate addiction phenomena throughout history, to scrutinize the terms addiction and dependence in scientific literature, to explore the biochemical processes that cause addiction, and to conduct my own survey that will shed light on the societal attitudes towards addiction. So human societies have been always inflicted by the use of psychoactive substances, and the first cases of pathological use were described as early as classical antiquity, while the first mention of the term addiction is found in Shakespeare's Henry V. The first scientific discussions of the issue, similar to today's context, date to the 17th century. Drugs had been used for medical purposes since the ancient times and until 20th century. However, even nowadays, the researches about psychedelic microdosing are being carried out and perhaps will improve our knowledge of the influence of drugs on nervous system much further. It is necessary to understand that addiction and dependence are not interchangeable terms. Basically, addiction is a psychiatric state of mind, while the dependence is a physical state of an organism when it requires a specific substance to be consumed in order to continue existing. However, scientists usually use the term substance use disorder. So the debates if drug addiction is an individual's own choice or a pure chemical process still remain relevant. However, scientists have admitted that drugs seriously affect our nervous system and control our behavior no matter how strong-minded the individual is. So the main parts of our brain that psychoactive substances affect are the basal ganglia, prefrontal cortex, and the extended amygdala. Euphoria, or the high, is still poorly understood, but probably includes surges of endorphins in basal ganglia. When drugs are taken, they cause neurotransmitters to surge, and as a result, diminish natural healthy rewards. And endorphins surged due to some natural rewards, which are usually something like food, sex, creative pursuits, and so on. The most crucial effect has a neurotransmitter dopamine, which affects our nervous system and finally turns the drug usage into a habit. So the brain becomes trained to seek for the substance as often as possible. So finally, the consumer becomes dependent on the substance, and the level of reward becomes just normal. Drug use appears to cause only a normal level of reward, and the person who misuses the drugs eventually feels flat and depressed. Since drug addiction is the most definite and fatal one, I used it as an example. However, you can read more about other addictions in my research paper. To clearly understand more about people's attitudes towards substance use disorder, I have conducted my own research, which was a survey consisting of 20 questions and completed by 83 respondents of various age, gender, and level of education. Firstly, you can see that respondents were asked to choose which of these options were the examples of an addicted person, while all of the 4 options were correct. And the least popular option was the one where a person drinks every weekend to avoid stress. So other questions represent that the majority of respondents assume that they had faced with addicts in their inner circle or mention people using psychoactive substances as a way of social interaction. Finally, 19% of respondents assume that drug addiction can be a way of entertainment and could be easily given up. The results of conducted research show us that there are lots of common misconceptions around the addiction phenomena. However, alcohol and nicotine addiction are still not as stigmatized as the drug addiction is. To conclude, I would like to say that addiction remains a contradictory problem that affects society every day, and the first step towards solving this problem is understanding the addiction. Stigmatization leads to shame, and that makes the process of diagnosis very complicated, and we can't prevent the development of the disease. Here are the materials that I have used, and thank you so much for your attention.
It is starting to be a more prevailing kind of issue, especially in the western part of the globe. For example, Vancouver, Canada has actually decriminalized all drug usage. So to sum up, my question is, do you think that decriminalization is a good way to fight overdosing and to destigmatize this societal issue?
I guess that these substances are truly dangerous for a consumer, and they have to be regulated by government anyway, because I think that the consequences would be more severe if they would be decriminalized.
My question is, does the alcohol addiction works like a drug addiction actually?
Yes, it does. I guess not absolutely like that, but probably the mechanisms are the same. The reward circuit that includes dopamine induces is the same. So I guess mostly yes.
So can it be said what like alcoholics are equal to drug addictors?
I think that it's a matter of degree, but it is a matter of degree, but I was speaking about that the mechanism is the same. So you asked me if the alcohol addiction works like drug addiction. Yes, it does. However, like withdrawal symptoms are not so harmful, and probably the need in a substance is lower when it comes to a drug addiction.
Your final statement was that stigmatization hinders the diagnosis because it's a shame, but don't you think that this is a social mechanism that can prevent and protect the young generation from becoming drug addicts and so on, and falling for that addiction?
I guess, of course, that plays a major role in preventing people from starting using the substances. However, when it comes to diagnosis, when it comes to a will to visit a doctor, a proper specialist, we should not be ashamed, we shouldn't fear it, we should come to a specialist and say that, like, yeah, I have a problem, I need to be, I need some help. And that is very hard when it's stigmatized, like you're afraid that, I don't know, maybe your friends will know that you're addicted or something like that, and people are just afraid to ask for help.
From the second slide, I remember there was written that drugs are not used in medicine after the 20th century. But Lyrica is still classified as analgesic or some term like that. And I know that there are many drugs used to treat epilepsy. How would you comment on this?
It's not used anymore in that wide range of substances that we use as medicines, because of course some medicines have a drug nature. Of course they have the same mechanisms and they are classified as drugs, but their treating properties are bigger than the harmful effect, and of course it will be used in medicine. However, if we compare the amount of drug classified medicines nowadays and before 20th century, like, we would see a very huge difference. I meant that because after the 20th century, drug medicines became really regulated by government, and that was not like that before.
I beg your pardon, but one more question. Where is this border between drug and medicine?
That's a very contradictory question. I'm not sure if I will give an answer right now, but I think that if we compare again the medical properties and all of the harmful effects of some specific medicine, we will see like is it worth using it in medicine or is it not? But I guess I agree that that is a very contradictory topic.